My photo went viral worldwide when I was 16. It was on, Having to Post, CNN, Oprah. You need to be not afraid of being cringy. So much of life is awkward. I've had over 1 billion views on TikTok. Once I hit around 1 billion views, it was like, we know where you live. Intern, she's starring in a television show. Like, it's one of the biggest shows right now. Now she's an A-list star. And so you really never know who's going to go anywhere on set. Katy Perry's chatting with you. She actually came up to me and she said,
Sublime Avenue.
Let's go. I have salesperson of olive oil with me. A professional model. She was on the covers of Harper's Bazaar.
Lots of magazines all around the world.
Elle, basically you name it. And she was in the commercials for such known brands as Armani and Gucci. And we'll cover about this. Sarah Gullixson.
Hi, guys.
Yeah. So what's up with olive oil?
It's so funny. I always thought that this was so normal of me to use olive oil on my face. But then all of a sudden, my friends saw me do it. You go on a Friday night, you go out to the club, and then you want to take your makeup off. You're crashing at your girl's house. And she's like, why are you doing that with my olive oil? And I'm like, well, it takes off makeup. It's like the best thing ever, for removing makeup. It's all natural. And you don't have to spend a bunch of money on makeup removing wipes. You can remove makeup with olive oil.
Yeah, I love it. The reason why I'm bringing up olive oil is because you also had, like, besides just using olive oil to as a makeup removal, you also have some reels on, I think, very prosperous, possibly topic for you, which is food quality. You have a reel where you talk about the wild salmon.
Yes.
And you specifically call out this. There's wild salmon and there's farm salmon. And luckily, they're very easy to distinguish, to tell apart based on their color. The purpose of differentiating is that food industry is extremely complex. And it went very far from agricultural revolution where this whole purpose of making food, either at farms or any kind of controlled environment, is to optimize it towards maximum output for lowest amount of input that the manufacturers, producers usually put in. And therefore, there's so much optimization happening anywhere from the time when the animal shows up at the farm, be it in the form of a small fish, or a baby animal, all the way till it gets slaughtered. And surprisingly, the food that the animals get eventually ends up in your body. They've been doing testing on animals that are coming from farms, and because majority of animals are being fed corn, then the DNA of the corn stays in the animals, and then you consume DNA, and pretty much anybody, especially in this country, they have traces of corn DNA in them, regardless of whether they eat corn or not, because corn is so ubiquitous. Like, even if you don't think that, whatever you like this Coca-Cola, it's a high fructose corn syrup. Hello, this is corn. Okay, it's just liquid corn.
It's my one exception.
Yeah. So
I love being healthy, but Coca-Cola is the one thing that is always on my mind.
This is your vice.
So, like you were saying, I'm very passionate about salmon. I'm very passionate about it because I'm actually Norwegian. So a lot of people don't realize that Norway has 15% of the population is redhead. And I'm half Norwegian, hence why my dad is 6'7". And so I love salmon. It's interesting because I found out about this diet that's very wild salmon focused because I'm going to be starring in a short film. And the director's wife of this film, I was chatting with her while I was on set, and she was explaining to me how there's this anti-inflammatory diet that's called the salmon diet. And it's from the early 2000s, late 90s. It was the rage back then. And she went on it and she experienced her skin reverse aging, which was crazy to hear. I felt like it was some insider industry information. She said that it's a hard diet to follow, but that she did experience her age, she did experience her skin reverse aging in her eyes. She said she looked like the best she's ever looked in her entire life. And the diet is primarily salmon, and it has to be wild-caught salmon, which is so funny.
Yep.
The reason that it has to be wild-caught salmon is because fish, like, farmed salmon, it doesn't have the same I'm not a doctor, but farm salmon doesn't have the same anti-inflammatory properties as wild-caught salmon because of the diet that the salmon has. And so if you're interested in having, a complete revamp of your skin, anti-inflammatory foods are really important, which is why I do an anti-inflammatory diet. And so the wild-caught salmon actually really helps with inflammation in the face. I was told by my aunt after going on the diet, she was like, "You have a new look. Like, did you do something?" And I was like, "Did I do something?" She's like, "Your face changed. Like, it looks different." And I'm like, "Oh, I just have been doing this new diet ever since I was filming."
Yeah, like less puffy.
Yeah, you look less puffy. And that's a huge thing that all the girls are talking about on TikTok is they're trying to reduce inflammation because so many of the foods that we eat nowadays, they inflame you. They can, if you eat something, it's all about gut health nowadays, right? Everyone's obsessed with probiotics, prebiotics. And so whatever you eat does have an effect on the way that you look. And so definitely doing the salmon diet is what they call it. It has changed a lot in my life. And I find myself eating so much smoked salmon. It's like the easiest protein that you could get, especially the wild-caught one is super yummy. But my brother always steals it when I'm home. He says it's the best gym food.
Yeah, they're not wrong. And a lot of like marine mammals, salmon is one of them, come with fish oil specifically, which has the anti-inflammatory effects. Also, you can consume like other fishes like tuna, but tuna comes with mercury, unfortunately, because tuna is a much larger fish. It lives a bit deeper, and it consumes all the smaller ones, and the smaller ones accumulate mercury, and they end up in the liver of tuna. So therefore, people who consume too much tuna can develop like mercury poisoning. But salmon doesn't have this. So yeah, I'm all for salmon. Welcome to the salmon club.
Yes, I love salmon. It's the best. My boyfriend always makes this joke with me where he says, he's like, she's trying to take out the salmon population.
Yeah.
Because of how much salmon that I eat. During Fashion Week, I was eating, I ordered some sushi after one of my fashion shows via DoorDash. Of course, everyone loves DoorDash. And essentially what happened is that he told me, he's like, I didn't realize they had this thing called the salmon lovers, which is just, you just order like a bunch of salmon sushi. Yeah. And he's like, I didn't even realize people ordered this. And I'm like, no, this is because I want to look amazing tomorrow when I'm walking down the runway for New York Fashion Week, is I want to eat. He's like, that looks like a pound of salmon, or half a pound of salmon. And I'm like, well, it's worth it. And like, I will look better tomorrow. And he's like, oh my goodness. The next morning I wake up, your skin can sometimes get a little bit irritated from the cold. I'm not used to the New York City 10-degree weather. It's so freezing. And so my skin was kind of having a moment. And then I ate all of the salmon. And the next day I woke up and it was back to normal.
Yeah, that works with wild salmon specifically. As I mentioned earlier, the food that farm salmon gets, they are actually pro-inflammatory.
Yeah.
So they're not just not good, but they are kind of bad for you. So it kind of makes sense to stay away from them. Cool.
Dun,
yeah, love
dun,
it.
Dun.
Dun, dun. Yeah. So listen, my point is that you can launch whole new like line in your content strategy when you talk about anti-inflammatory foods, and then you are going to be the walking example of why that stuff works. By the way, and it's $1 trillion industry.
Yes. And also as well, I'm gluten-free, dairy-free, which it's caused a lot of interesting conversations in my life with my family and friends and boyfriend, because definitely not everyone does that. But in LA, it's actually fairly common. So, it's not groundbreaking information. People are always like, oh my gosh, a dairy-free, gluten-free girl in LA, shocking. But it's true that there's a reason the entire industry seems to be on like a similar diet. It's because it makes you really beautiful. It makes you the best you that you can be.
Yeah, and also it helps to control your calorie intake, and also your size is like extra small, right?
Yeah, I'm an extra small.
Yeah, and you're like 5'10".
I'm 5'10", yeah.
Yeah, so it helps.
It does help.
It works. It works.
You don't even have to think about it. You just end up skinny on accident.
Yeah. What's your take on? Yeah, I love this topic because I've done so much research in anti-inflammatory foods. So, what's your take on? Well, clearly there's fiber in the vegetables,
Mm-hmm.
and you also mentioned that you'll eat like spinach, you eat like avocados, I guess, because again, avocados is a source of omega fats. What's your take on dark-skinned fruits like blueberries, grapes?
Yeah, so those have some of the higher anti-inflammatory properties, specifically blueberries. I try to do a big diet of frozen blueberries. I saw something on TikTok that said something along the lines of frozen blueberries are apparently better for you than regular blueberries. I'm not a nutritionist, but that's what I saw on Instagram. So it was interesting. I try to focus, because the diet that I'm on, the salmon diet, you have a focus on berries in general. So a lot of like blackberries, blueberries, they're super anti-inflammatory as well. And so I find myself making a lot of smoothies, which are really yummy.
Awesome. What about like turmeric, garlic?
Yeah, all of those things. I do during Fashion Week, I do ginger shots. I love the ginger shots. Yeah. So before my runway shows, I just walked for Oscar de la Renta. And when I modeled for Oscar de la Renta the day before, I went and I did my red light therapy, which is amazing. I thought at first it was like a hoax, but no, it actually makes a huge difference. And then I also do my ginger shot, the day before runway show. And it always helps so much. Again, another anti-inflammatory thing. I don't completely follow an Ayurvedic diet, but that's another type of diet that a lot of people do. And my family dietitian, she was the one who suggested Ayurvedic methods, and doing, ginger shots, turmeric, all that stuff. It's involved with Ayurvedic medicine and Ayurvedic dieting.
Yeah. Let's see. So it also helps you age lower, obviously. So you're Norwegian.
I'm Norwegian, yes.
Norwegian.
I'm half Norwegian. Actually, no, I'm majority Norwegian. We just found out what the missing 25% was because my grandpa was adopted. And so I'm actually more Norwegian. So I'm majority Norwegian. I'm like 65% Nordic.
So, yeah. Okay, so I guess your father is coming from this area because there are lots of tall people in Northern Europe.
Yes.
What about your mom?
So my mother, she's Irish and German. And then Norwegian as well.
Very cool. So, okay, did they meet here? Like, how did they decide to make you specifically?
So they were roommates.
Okay, that's sweet.
Yeah, basically, my parents showed me this TV show Friends, and they were like, "This is how Mom met Dad."
This was like very, very popular in the 90s. I remember.
Yes. So essentially what happened was that my mom had a few different roommates and they were living in a house, and they put up this notice, at the college, a little piece of paper that said, "We're looking for female roommates only." And they had interviews with all these girls scheduled. And then all of a sudden this guy shows up and it's like, "I need to live in this neighborhood. Please, I promise I'm harmless."
Wow. And she's like 6'7".
He's 6'7".
6'8".
Yeah. And then they were engaged within like a year.
Wow. What a story.
He was really harmless.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, so, okay, so you happened. How did you understand that you should try modeling? Was it like a random event? Because you mentioned somewhere that there was a scout from one of the agencies who kind of suggested that you should try.
Yes. So there was it felt like the universe all of a sudden decided that I was meant to model and that it was going to happen when I was 14. My dad saw this information about a fashion show, and it was in the Bay Area. And because I guess they didn't have enough people attending at the very last minute, they advertised it to the public. And my dad knew that I was obsessed with fashion. And so he told me, he was like, "Sarah, you have to go. There's a fashion show. It's happening today. I saw it." And so then I grabbed my mom and, my best friend Sasha at the time. And then we went to the fashion show, and we were actually 5 minutes late. And so when I walked in, I was running in with my friend Sasha, and, because I was 14, my mom dropped me off in the car, and then she was going to come in later. And it felt like when I walked in, everyone was staring at me, which is a very odd feeling to have when you walk into a fashion show. And I kind of figured, I was like, "Oh, they must think I don't belong because I'm just 14-year-old regular girl, I don't belong at a fancy fashion show." And then I found out later that one of the models was actually late, and they thought I was the one who was late. And so they were about to throw me onto the runway.
You looked like someone's sisters, right?
Yes, I look like this girl. Her name's Adair Howell. She was a huge model.
Yeah.
She modeled for Miu Miu, and she like walked their runways. She was on the cover of Glamour magazine. Now she's a mom, but she was the one who they thought I was her sister. And so backstage, they were like, Adair, tell your sister she should never be late. And she's like, I don't have a sister. They're like, who are you talking about? And they're like, no, clearly what are you talking about? Your sister. Don't pretend you don't have a sister. She's right there. And she's like, oh my gosh, that girl looks exactly like me. This is crazy. We have to go talk to her later. And then I also had one of the Vogue editors, and Adair came up to me after the fashion show. And, my mother and I, we didn't really know we knew Adair was one of the models, but we didn't know who anyone was because why would we? And so then the Vogue editor was like, your daughter has a lot of potential with modeling. And my mom was kind of like, so what do you do? And she's like, I work at Vogue. And we're like, oh, okay. This is something we have to listen to.
Yeah. Do you remember which show was done?
So it was a fashion show for a few different designers. It was I believe it was a Nordstrom sponsored fashion show. And so they had like a curation of different designers. They had a Vogue editor. They had a bunch of influencers. It was really fun, really amazing. That's
back in the day when there was some business in the city, before all the exodus of like Macy's, Nordstrom and everything.
So sad. I think we're coming back, honestly. I think San Francisco is going to make a comeback. We're going to do it. It'll be...
Yeah, we all hope.
It'll happen with all the night markets and all of the amazing restaurants. I just saw there was an article that said that San Francisco is one of the best places to live in the world. And so definitely we're starting to get some positive,
That's why you live
coverage.
in LA.
Well, I live part-time here and part-time in LA. Definitely I go through moments where I miss San Francisco. And so then I'm like, I just have to go. I just have to go for like a few weeks. And then I'll come back to LA. But, definitely the majority of the industry is in LA. So there's not really much of a choice there.
Yeah, sure.
Especially because I'm an actress and a model. So,
So hold on. So let's kind of, unfold this. So someone from Vogue told you to try modeling. So what were the next steps? So imagine like somebody who is, like watching us and, they know you and they want to learn what are steps that they need to take to actually, go on the same journey as you.
Yes. So the first thing that I did is I went to the various modeling agency websites and I decided, which were the top 3 ones that I wanted to submit to.
Yeah.
And then I submitted my pictures to their website portal. All of the agencies have a portal on their website where you can usually submit your pictures. It'll say something like become a model, apply. And so I sent my pictures in and I heard back within 24 hours from the agencies. They all wanted to sign me.
Yeah, so currently you are signed with like No Ties. This is the LA-based agency and also Stars here.
Yes.
Were you signed with more of them? And how did you end up on with those 2? Can you maybe say which ones are good, which ones are not? How do you figure out which ones are worth your time and so on?
Yes, I would say that it's a personal opinion on which agencies are the best or, are not. Because essentially what you're looking for is you're looking for a manager who's going to fight for you. You're looking for somebody who's going to open doors, create new opportunities. There have been agencies where I've been with them and, some of the girls, they didn't get that much attention because a booker didn't necessarily feel that, the booker did not feel that confident about their look. And so those girls got booked less. And so they would switch to different agencies and then they would be with an agent who really was passionate about, their beauty and they believed in their story. And then they would work a ton. And it's the same girl. So it's all about finding the person who's going to fight for you, the person who believes in you. It doesn't necessarily have to be a specific agency. Definitely I've heard stories of girls being with, the number 1 agency in the world or the number 2 agency in the world. And then they actually don't work.
Yeah.
They don't work
Yeah.
because their agents don't like them. And for some sort of reason, they don't vibe. And so then they do better if they switch to an agency that's still top 10, but then, you know, they work with people who actually believe in them. Versus you could also be with an agency that, you know, you could be with an agency that's not the best agency, but your agent is obsessed with you. They love you and they want to book you on everything. And so then you could end up with like a bunch of jobs working more than other girls that are with better agencies. So it really is a personal decision, and you definitely have to do your due diligence because there are scams out there and they're really scary, and I don't want anyone to get hurt. So definitely look on the website models.com. Trust your gut. If your gut feels off, don't do it.
Were you lucky to not get into any kind of like shady arrangements, or can you share maybe a story?
I mean, I think that definitely I have trusted my gut. You know, there was actually something that happened recently where, you know, there was like a photographer that was a little bit odd and he was established, but I just had to trust my gut because, you know, he seemed a little bit off. And then I found out later, a bunch of my friends were like, thank God you did not work with him. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, no, he has like a reputation. I'm like,
do you do research before you go?
Yeah, I do research before, and I always ask my friends, you know, have you worked with this person?
Yes.
Do you trust this person? You know, and also too, I feel like in the industry, there is, you know, there are certain like pages that'll post like, oh, you know, this photographer is shady.
Yeah, sometimes it's just very into your face when people, they think it's worth telling everybody else. But in reality, you know, there's so much going on. So sometimes people just are too busy to even talk about what happened to them.
Yeah, it's hard.
But I mean, social media is, you know, it's my favorite advice to anybody who is trying to understand whether whatever offer they're getting is legit. Is use social media and see who is connected to this new person you get the offer from, and ask those people. Yeah, what do they know about this?
You can always message the girls, hey, I saw that you shot with this photographer. How was it? He wants to shoot with me. And they'll say, oh, he's good. Or like, girl.
Yeah, definitely. So I think doing your research will save you from a lot of misunderstandings.
Yeah, save yourself from every misunderstanding.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, thank you. Very, very useful. Very, very good tip. Cool. So, okay, so you've done the legwork. You applied to a bunch of agencies. You chose some of them, and then you felt the energy, the vibe with the agent from the agency. Did they start to coach you? Like, how did they pull you up to like more professional level where you can get gigs from like major brands without you, like, I don't know, maybe even knowing what to do?
Yeah. So I have kind of an out of the ordinary story when it comes from, you know, being a child and getting your first job, which for me, my first job was, I mean, I had other jobs. I was a babysitter. I was a camp counselor at a theater camp. You know, I had other little jobs, but my first big job was modeling. And so they definitely had a lot of runway courses. I took a lot of runway classes through my modeling agency, which I found to be very helpful because I didn't know how to walk in heels when I started.
Right.
I had no idea. I'd never worn heels before. And so I had to like watch a YouTube video to teach myself. And then also I went to all the agency runway classes twice a week, and they were amazing. They were super helpful. So they helped me hone in on, you know, my runway walk and my signature walk, because every single girl has a different personality. They have a different way that they walk. And so it's important to find your unique voice and your unique runway walk. Yep. So I found mine. Definitely, I went from being the girl who was, you know, just a high school girl. I was doing a handful of photo shoots. Yes, I was shooting for magazines. I was doing, you know, my first modeling job ever was a runway show, which was amazing. And then all of a sudden, it went from a few sprinkled modeling jobs to my photo went viral worldwide when I was 16. And so when it went viral worldwide, it was on, you know, Huffington Post, CNN, Oprah. And so I essentially was kind of thrust into the limelight. So it went from, you know, modeling part-time while going to high school to you're going to New York and you're going to model full-time.
Awesome. Yeah, so on this specific photo, you made a TikTok post with this photo. It's basically you, 16, And
Yeah,
you
I'm
are kind of
16.
like, red, brownish kind of hair.
Mhm.
And there's Golden Gate, which is also red and brownish on the background. And that post got like 1 million views on TikTok. Why do you think this photo stands out? Like, what makes it so special? Why do you think it went so well?
I think there's something to the fact that it almost feels a little bit mystical. Definitely, first thing in the morning in San Francisco, you have the fog and you have the bridge, and it almost looks magical. It's, this kind of white cast of beautiful photography light that happens. We shot that photo at 7 a.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So I had to be up at 5. And, it was really cold outside. And the shirt that I was actually wearing was actually from Goodwill. It was like $5 turtleneck that I had found. And I think that it was just a combination of me. I understood my colors. A lot of girls nowadays are talking about the color analysis. I understood my color analysis. That's something that they have all the models understand. They go through your exact right colors for you to wear. And so I understood that this dark green color was really something that was super flattering on me.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of happened that everything went exactly right. She took the photo at the exact right moment, and it had this sort of magical vibe to it. Also, too, I think that my hair was always, it was funny because when I was modeling during that time, my hair was viewed as almost being too long because I had this long sort of hair that went almost to my waist. And so a lot of people were telling me to cut it. And so I had this sort of unique hairstyle with my natural red hair. And then she took the photo and it just went crazy. It was insane.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a reason why green would work well with your like natural colors.
Yeah.
It's a color theory and so-called complementary colors. They are on the opposite side of the spectrum. So I think this was part of the success story.
Yeah, the color analysis.
Yeah.
They're always talking about girls nowadays doing the color analysis so they can obtain their maximum beauty, which honestly does work because I was wearing only a $5 shirt, but it was my exact right color and it got, millions and millions. And it was on BuzzFeed. It had like 13 million views,
Yeah, but you can also change colors in post.
That's true. For all the photographers out there, you can achieve the perfect color as well.
Yeah, I can say when I take photos, this is my style because I know not everybody likes it, but I like to make them like more like two-tone. So, typical is like orange and blue, or you can do yellow, orange and like teal, and yellow and blue. And then red is more like green. So yeah, you choose any of those two, and then you can change your photo in such a way that those two colors are like dominant and everything else is kind of toned down. Yeah, not for everybody, but definitely I think for me, this is my favorite trick.
You're the expert.
Well, thank you. I appreciate this. Love it. Cool. Okay, so you said that the agency let you attend their like walking classes and everything, like modeling, posing, and so on. This is amazing. At no cost for you, I guess.
Yeah, it didn't cost me any money to go to the runway classes. That was
cool.
They understood that when you would go to the runway classes that they would get something out of it. But we were also already all signed working models. That's different for if you're brand new. I had so much experience, I'd already done, different photo shoots and things for different magazines and stuff. And then, then I did my first runway show. They needed to make sure that they prepped me.
Very cool. Very cool. I love it. There's a story where you are in Italy and also you had like a gig with, was it Gucci or Armani?
Which
remember?
I have so many
Something about nails. You had to go and do nails. And then the agent calls you and says, "Hey, stop whatever you're doing."
Are you talking about the craziest day of my life ever? Literally one of the days that my life changed.
Well, yeah, tell the story.
Yeah. So essentially what happened was I had the day off. And as a model, when you're in a different country and you're working, I was working essentially 7 days a week. So I would work for almost almost a month straight sometimes. And so I had one day off and it was on like a Tuesday. And so I decided, I was like, I have to take advantage. I'm going to go to the spa because I've been working nonstop as a model. Sometimes I would even do 2 photo shoots in a day. That's how stacked my calendar was. It was ridiculous.
It's a lot of shooting.
It's a lot of photo shoots, a lot of photo shoots. And so I had the day off. And then I always wore black on my days off just in case I got called for a casting or for a photo shoot. And so I had a cute outfit on and I went to the Bulgari hotel in Milan. I was going to get my nails done, have a spa day. And literally as I had just put on my robe and they were massaging my hand, I started getting a call from my booker and she was like, Sarah, Vogue wants to see you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, really? Right. Vogue Italia? And she's like, yes, right now. And I'm like, right now? And she's like, leave whatever you're doing. And I'm like, okay. And so when I was leaving, I was literally running out of the spa saying, thank you, thank you. And they're like, where are you going? And I'm like, Vogue Italia. And they're like, Vogue Italia, like Vogue Italia, help her, like get ready, go quick, And there was a little bit of a language barrier there. And so I was running out the door trying to explain in Italian, I have to go for Vogue Italia. And then I literally had 30 minutes to make it to the meeting. And if I was late, it was going to be an issue. And so I literally just ran and I hailed a cab that somebody was leaving, And so then I went right to the offices and I had studied Italian. And so I learned some Italian in advance. And so then when I went into the Vogue offices, they were chatting about me and I took the picture. I made it on time. Thank God. I think I was actually 5 minutes early. And so then I went in and they said, lei è perfetta. She is perfect, is what the girl who was in charge of all of Vogue Italia said about me. And I said, grazie, grazie. And I was having a moment because, I had just been told I was perfect by, the woman who's in charge at Vogue Italia. And I was just speechless. Like, I could not believe that it was happening to me. And so then they booked me. And that was my first September issue Vogue Italia photo shoot.
Very cool. I'm going to do this shameless plug. So those 2 samples this is my magazine.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah, so
it's gorgeous.
I know you like being featured on the magazine, so
I do.
The rest is history. It's a very cool story. Outside of Vogue, you worked with like Armani and Gucci. This also comes like randomly to you through your agents and bookers, or did you do anything on your own to get there?
Yes. So in Italy at the time, I was signed with the #1 agency in Italy. And so they had all the connections, all of, the friendships and everything. They knew the right people. And so they put me in front of the right people. And then it was magical. It was amazing. It was beautiful. Definitely, though, if you're looking to get signed internationally, a lot of my friends, there are 2 ways of doing it. You can either get signed when you're in America or in your home country, wherever that may be. When you have agents coming into town, your mother agent would set it up. But another thing that a lot of my friends will do is they'll chat with their mother agents and they'll say, hey, I want to model in France. I'm going to go on vacation in France this summer. Can you set up meetings with me with agencies in France while I'm there? And the agencies love this because then you're already there. They already have seen you in person. The whole team gets to see you instead of one booker. And it's a lot easier to get signed, I think, if you go in person, because then you can do 10 meetings instead of doing 1 meeting with one agency that's in town this month,
And I guess you have to be like physically present because they want to see, how you present yourself.
It helps because they're going to send pictures of you from your meeting. If you're meeting in your home country, your hometown, they're going to show pictures of you to, the bosses, and they're going to say approve or deny, right? But if you're there in person, you can showcase your personality. You can show them what you look like in person. There are some girls that I know, I've known many models where some girls, they look better in video or in person. But then other girls, they don't look as strong in pictures. It really depends on what your strength is. Everyone is not strong at everything. And so definitely going and meeting them in person when you're in the country. If you're on vacation, you can plan a strategic vacation where you get to, meet with all the agencies. That's a great way to do it.
So how did you discover your strengths?
My strengths, I think that I discovered my strengths by, that's a good question.
Like, would you say that you are stronger in person, on the video, or in photos?
I would say that I'm definitely the strongest in videos, person, and photography. Definitely, I think that's part of why my modeling career has been so amazing, is because I'm good at all of those things. And that definitely was not, it was kind of a God thing. It was kind of in my blood. We have a bunch of models in my family. And so like the original Macy's models who were twins were in my family. And so definitely there was a learning curve to learning how to pose. That is something that is like a very teachable moment. But, sometimes it just has to be a meant to be thing, plucking a girl from obscurity, which is essentially what happened to me. And then, being thrust into the industry. It's amazing.
Very cool. So I guess you just kind of started to do things and then you got feedback and then this is how you realized you are good.
Yeah, I'm a learner by doing.
Yeah.
So I definitely did a lot of photo shoots. Yeah, the best way to learn. It's the best way to learn. So I did a lot of photo shoots. I did a lot of runway shows because there are some girls, they don't always want to say yes to the photo shoot or to the runway show. And that's not how you learn or how you grow. You learn by doing, right? It depends on your learning style. Definitely there are girls with different learning styles. Some girls learn from watching. So if you subscribe to various YouTube channels, you can watch different girls. You can watch different models posing, different models doing their runway walks, all of the above. There's so much to learn, but I did a lot of, I was in person doing the groundwork essentially. And then the stars just aligned perfectly. And then I had my viral moment and then I became an international model.
Awesome. If you have to choose, so like imagine you have a shoot with this brand selling this product or with this magazine doing that, like how do you prioritize? So do you even have a choice or do you just do whatever your agent tells you to do?
It's brutal. It's totally brutal because there are moments where you have two things on the same day.
Yeah.
I remember there was one time actually, it happened a few times during New York Fashion Week where two different designers will want to book you at the exact same time for their fashion shows. And in that moment, you have to think, which one do you want to do? How do you decide? And so it's important to have that conversation with your agents and also to look at, which brand do you vibe with the most? Which designer do you have the best relationship with? Because this industry is all about relationships, right? And so definitely
reputation as well.
Reputation, relationships. And so it's also being respectful and making sure that you say, if you can't make it, let them know as soon as possible. I had a filming day that I was going to do and, I had to be somewhere else. And so I told them the second that I knew that I had a family thing that I had to go to. And they were like, thank you for letting us know, and I sent the email like a little bit late, but I understood that they were trying to fill that role at that exact time on that exact day. And they appreciated that even though it was a later email that I let them know as soon as possible, because if you wait, that's a bad look.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I think it's also your ability to kind of manage. And sometimes you might have a lot going on. Sometimes there is nothing. And then it also depends on your agent and your agent's ability to find gigs for you. And that's what you, I think, mentioned earlier, where you might be signed up with a top one or top two agency in the world, but you probably will not be getting too many gigs. Speaking of which, you also talk about the financial side of being part of an agency. And I think a lot of agencies still, even though that's changing, they expect you to be like exclusive with them. So they are like, if you try to do gigs on your own, kind of like hiding from them, they don't like it. Is it still like this, or is it changing?
It depends. I think that it's really important to have a team that's cohesive and that likes each other. So my agency in Southern California and my agency in Northern California, they love each other. They have a phenomenal relationship together. Cool. And so they already have an established working relationship. And so there's not that much confusion. But sometimes if there are two agents from different agencies that don't vibe, it could be a problem. And it gets touchy. The more agencies that you have all around the world, the more traveling you're doing. You just have to be really adamant on having one person that has your schedule and then having all the different agents organize. organize what day, organize what time, or, and, talk about what do they think as your team is going to be the best decision for you.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So in return of this kind of like expectation that you maybe not exclusive with them, but at least you consider everybody's interests. So,
yeah, everyone knows each other. They work together. A lot of my emails have all of my agents CC'd so that they understand what's going on and what the plan is.
Very cool. So can you expect like maybe steady stream of income? There is no like salary, I guess, right?
Essentially, the more of a reputation, if you create a good reputation for yourself and you're early and, you understand the job and you're enthusiastic, anytime that you do that in any career, you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
And so I've found that as long as you're nice, you're early, you're respectful, you talk to everybody on the team. I actually recently had a girl who was an intern. She's starring in a television show. Like, it's one of the biggest shows right now. She was an intern on set with me, and I was really sweet to her, and I had an amazing time with her, but now she's an A-list star. And so you really never know who's going to go anywhere on set. Some people have been rude to the interns, models. I've seen models be rude in the past to people who are on set that are, maybe not in charge of everything. And it could bite you, it could bite you back in your back because you never know. Someone could go anywhere in the industry.
I think that's a very good example, but overall, it's, you never know what kind of connections people have and where they can go and how can they help you.
Yeah, and their work ethic. Someone could be new. They could be 18, or they could have just switched from a different job. Like my boyfriend, he was a Marine, and then he started modeling later. And he became a huge, really successful model, a male model in his field, but he transitioned into it later because he went to college and then he became a Marine and served in Afghanistan. So you never know someone's story. You never know when they're starting, but you also don't know where they're going. Someone could have wrote him off and said, oh, that he's starting male modeling later. They could have assumed negative things, but he ended up doing huge things in his career. We're actually both Armani models. So you never know what's going to happen with anyone on set. You never know someone's story. So it's really important to always be gracious and kind and sweet, because if you're not, you'll get a bad reputation. That's not good.
Yeah, and it's not only reputation, but what I know, I'm part of an acting school, and some of the folks who you go to the very same class, they might have very different trajectory compared to yours. And I know a lot of students started maybe a bit before me, but then they progressed through the school very fast, and now they are on big screens. You see, and you never know. If you ever were rude to them, then you just don't have access to them anymore. But if you were meaningful to them, and if you were helpful and were able to connect, you can call them up and they can maybe remember you, and then they can suggest you and maybe get closer to the very same movie. That's for acting specifically.
Yeah.
And I guess in modeling it's very, very, very same.
Yeah, they could always say on set, oh, I have a really great friend. We did acting school together.
I know someone.
So talented.
Yeah, I know someone. Let me ask.
I know someone.
Yeah.
We're the best buds. I actually did that once. One of the girls that I modeled with, I was at a photo shoot for Fenty, Rihanna's brand. And they looked at me and they said, Sarah, one of the other redheads can't make it. She's sick. And they're like, do you know any friends of yours that are redhead models? And so I called my friend Dayton, who's an amazing model in New York. And I was like, girl, what are you doing right now? And she's like, nothing. And I'm like, do you want to model for Fenty? You have to be at the studio right now. And she's like, okay, I'm leaving yoga class right now. Like, I'm going to come in right now. I'm like, okay. And so then they were very appreciative of the fact that I had saved the day, because it's really hard to get a girl, that if you need a model within under an hour,
with
connections
specific
help.
looks, yeah.
And she was a really sweet girl, and so I had no problem helping her.
Wonderful example. Love it. Cool. Talk a bit more about the high fashion side. So, commercial work is amazing, clearly. Especially if it can, maybe not pay all your bills, but, keep you afloat. So talk a bit more about the fashion event. So you mentioned the Oscar de la Renta.
Yes.
It's quite, well, don't want us to call it eccentric, but it's a bit unusual, unconventional event, because it's like outside in the mansion, and it's in Orange County. So can you tell a bit more about like why it's so special?
Honestly, being in those rooms, modeling for Oscar de la Renta, walking down the runway, it is the most amazing, highest honor that I've experienced. It's crazy, 1 second you're backstage and you're just chatting with, the designers, and it's amazing. And then the next moment, Katy Perry's chatting with you.
Mm-hmm.
She's actually super sweet. I met her and she actually came up to me and she's like, "You're so beautiful. Oh my goodness. Hi, I'm Katy." And I'm like, "Of course I know who you are. This is Katy Perry. Like, hi. Thank you so much, Katy Perry." Like, she's so sweet. So it's one of those things where you have these artisans that are making impeccable gowns, and the vision is amazing. It's just the best of the best. They're artists, and so everybody comes together and they have the same great teamwork. Definitely, I've noticed that everyone at Oscar de la Renta, they're very sweet, very kind to everybody. And they have a really sweet, nice working environment. So everyone's really collaborative and really willing to work together to create a beautiful collection. Definitely, there have been other clients that I've modeled for where they don't have as good of a teamwork ethic.
Yeah.
And then it falls apart. So definitely having a great, strong team where everyone is nice to each other and they're talented, and you highlight each other, give each other, the moment when it's deserved, and then you have your own moment when it's deserved. Everyone's able to come together and create something magical.
Very good observation. Would you say that overall it might be a sign of an event status? So maybe the more arguments people have, the lower is the event status, kind of.
Sometimes that is the case. It depends, though. There are some celebrities who I'm not going to mention who are unfortunate to be around.
Maybe that's why they're famous in the well, there is no like a negative popularity, right? A negative.
Yeah. So I see what you're saying, though. It's like clients that really know how to create a beautiful day and have a great copacetic relationship with everyone on set. It's really important, because if there's conflict takes up time when you're on set. So if the makeup artist is arguing with the designer, or, the director is arguing with, the set coordinator, there's going to be an issue. And it's going to take up time, and it's going to take up, production, part of your production day. And maybe you won't get every single shot that you need. Yeah,
it'll take away from overall quality of the output of this.
Yeah. So the bigger the client, the more it's like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
When I modeled for Maybelline, I got the shot in under a minute. And so they actually said, they're like, "That's the fastest." Jenna Lyons said this to me. Now she's on The Real Housewives. She's like, "That's the fastest anyone's ever gotten a photo from Maybelline in the history of Maybelline." And I'm like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah, it was seconds." And then we kept clicking for, a few minutes just in case to get it, but you got it within like the first 5 shots. And so, they have the perfect lighting, they have the perfect angle. And then me as the model, I've been modeling, I have experience in modeling, and so I know my exact right angles. And so I hit that angle within the first 5 shots. And then that was the picture that, went all around the world. And so definitely the bigger clients have it like a well-oiled machine. They're trying to get the shot in under an hour with each girl.
Yeah.
Which is hard. If you're a new model, it's hard to get the shot in under an hour.
Yeah. So on the angles, I think that comes with experience. And this is how you learn that you are good at something, because other people tell you through you taking action on this.
Yeah. I think too, just looking at yourself, you put up your phone, you have it, so that you can see yourself. You can look at your angles and see your face moving and understand what looks better, what doesn't. The more you do this, the more you're going to hone in on your craft. So it doesn't even have to be on set. It could be, they suggest in the mirror. A lot of the agents suggest looking in the mirror and modeling in front of the mirror. The mirror can be a little bit awkward, though.
Yeah.
As somebody who tried the mirror method, it's a little bit awkward. I think that, making content and using your phone to look at the way that you are presenting to the world is a great way to understand the way that your body angles look, the way that your face angles look, the way that you look the best. And definitely when you post the content, you'll be able to see which facial expression, which pose gets the most likes, so you can data test it.
I love it.
Yeah.
So we kind of bridge into next section of questions for social media. But yeah, I think on the angles, the more you do it, the more you know that you need to like look in the camera from the specific angle and make specific like face. And it's going to give you the good result.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we met on set. I was looking in the reflections of the windows so that I had an understanding of what the gowns I was wearing looked like. I was practicing my poses in between, and so I had an understanding when I've got in front of the camera of which angles looked really good with the dress, which angles didn't look, as flattering, because no matter what, even if you're Adriana Lima or, Candace Swamerpool, you could have a bad angle. Those girls just know their angles and they never do a bad angle. Sure. So I had an understanding of how to pose because I had looked in the mirror and I had looked in the reflection of the glass so that I had an understanding of the best ways that those dresses could be posed.
Would you say that your angles also change, maybe in different time of the day, different sun?
Yeah.
And so on.
For sure.
Depending on what you ate the day before.
Yeah. The easiest way to understand if you're going to look good or not is where's your light coming from. So, you always want to face your face towards the light, right?
Sure.
So if you're, if it's the middle of the day and the sun is just beating down on you and you have all the shadows on your face are going to go.
Yeah, that doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good. But if you just tilt your face up, it's going to look a lot better. So, that's definitely the best.
Yeah, that's why a lot of shoots are happening, like you said, 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Or in the end of the day where the sun is low and it's kind of hitting your face at the right angle.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very cool. Love it. Okay, so from angles we can go to like making content.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about social media. So you do have you have YouTube, TikTok, IG.
Mm-hmm.
You also have some smaller ones.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have a bunch of shops, and we'll talk about shops in the very end.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a different strategy for content for each of those platforms, for 3 main ones, or do you just repost?
So this evolves with trends. I am a trend whisperer. I love trends. I'm obsessed with trends. So that's something that I try to focus on, is I want to evaluate the trends. And so as long as you understand what's going on in the world, you can create relevant content, right? So that's one of the keys to success. As long as you're talking about what's relevant, you're doing something that's relevant, you're utilizing relevant sounds, you're going to have a better chance of going viral. So that could look different on different platforms. It's interesting because sometimes I have certain content where it'll hit really hard on one platform and then the other platform, it doesn't hit as well. And I think it's because different platforms have different echo chambers, different conversations being had, different types of content that they're looking for. On TikTok, definitely people really want to see my runway walk. That's something that always people love watching, my runway walk. But on Instagram, I have a really good response for my fitness content and my dietitian, and my dietary kind of content as well. So I find that I've always had a passion for food and a passion for wellness. And that's always been a big reason why I've done well in modeling, is because I know how to create healthy recipes that taste delicious. And so I don't always have to cheat on my diet. And so I've had a consistent diet. So in the end, I think that definitely certain content does better on other platforms. And so you need to look at what your followers want. Yeah. And they'll tell you what they want. They'll tell you with likes, they'll tell you with comments, they'll tell you with the response. And so it's all about data testing it. It's more of a science, it involves a lot of math. You have to look at the numbers and understand what people want from you. And then once you can understand what people want from you, that's when you go viral.
A lot of companies rose to their abundance now through various growth strategies. And businesses do hire data scientists to figure out what makes, first, the product, the platform, attractive to the audience and what makes people stay for longer. So they all count optimized towards like longer retention and longer engagement. And as a content producer, it just doesn't make sense to not use the very same technique. I mean, so you have to become kind of your own data scientist to do this.
Yes. You need to understand what's doing well and what's not doing well and cut what's not doing well, because you could be working in vain.
Yeah, and the modern tools give you all kinds of data. Instagram has a lot, TikTok has a lot, and YouTube has even more in terms of like measuring performance and so on. But you also mentioned that different kind of content goes differently on each on different platforms. So you have this reel where I talk about like cringy things, and if you don't feel cringe, you're maybe not doing enough.
Yeah.
And it has like over 1 million on TikTok, but not so much on other platforms.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that I think that when I posted that video, there was already a little bit of a conversation going on about putting yourself out there on TikTok. People were saying that they were afraid to post. They were saying that, I mean, look, if you have a 9-to-5 job, it could be scary to start a podcast, or it could be scary to post on social media because you have the pressure of looking professional to your company, and, you have your bosses watching your content and stuff. So you might feel like, oh, are you sure that you're going to want to post things? So that can get in the way of some people, but that can also get in the way of a potential second stream of income, essentially. So the point of my post was talking about how you need to be not afraid of being cringy. So much of life is awkward. And I've been told, like, you have to be able to get over the awkward moments in order to get to the great ones. And so if you're afraid of stepping out of your comfort zone, you're going to miss so much of life. And so definitely not being afraid to post, not being afraid to share your life. And yes, it's possible to overshare, but that's a different problem. Most people are scared to share anything.
Yeah, undershare, definitely.
Undershare. And so I talked about how it's important to not be afraid of being cringy. Like when I first started modeling and I was in high school, I did a few photo shoots where, maybe it wasn't my exact favorite dress, or maybe it wasn't my exact favorite makeup. And some people at school were saying it's cringy, but I kept on keeping on. And then I was able to establish myself as a really professional model, and my photo went viral. And then I started modeling for all the top brands and all the top magazines. And then people who were making fun of me were like, how did you do it? And so I wasn't afraid of being cringy. And so it's important to make sure that you're not afraid of success. You need to push yourself out of your comfort zone, which I'm always reminding myself of doing.
Yeah, I love it. Overall, growth comes through feeling uncomfortable about what you do.
Yes, there's a lot of growth that happens there. It's a lot of important life lessons, a lot of different things, but definitely also understanding you kind of want to create a voice, and you want to figure out what sector you want to be in as a content creator, because the algorithm's going to have a better way of responding to you, right? So if they don't know who you are and you're posting things about everything all over the place, and there's no specific, I guess the word would be aesthetic. There's not, a specific kind of lane that you're staying in with your content. That's a really quick way to get really viral on any social media platform, is to stick to a specific kind of content, or maybe like a specific 3 different topics. So with my Instagram, I always try to talk about food. I always try to talk about fashion, and I want to talk about modeling, right? And so those 3 go together. The girl who's following me is interested in Pilates. She's also interested in my runway walk. And then she's also interested in the other stuff that's in this area of content that I'm creating. When people, you don't want to like reinvent the wheel necessarily. If you're, let's say, you're actually amazing at this, you're the perfect person to ask, because you do your photography, you have your magazine, you do your podcast. So that's all in the same.
Thank you. I don't know what you're going to say, but
in the same lane, right? So you're a good person to talk about with those kinds of things.
I love social media. I think social media is, it's a thing that people somehow don't believe in. And then when it picks up, it kind of changes everything.
Yeah. Why is it like that?
There's everybody's like a naysayer. Like, why are you doing this? And I was going to ask you, if you had any negative comments from your agents and your family, why are you doing TikTok? Why are you putting yourself out like this? what it doesn't look professional. So I'm pretty sure people were commenting in a negative way. And then you went to, I think you are like shy of 0.7 million on TikTok now.
It's, it's crazy. It's insane to understand. It's insane to wrap your head around the numbers and to understand how many views you could get. Definitely, you just won't ever get there unless you're not afraid of being cringy. You have to share, and you won't get the numbers if you're afraid. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but definitely too, there's kind of a moment that you could have right before you hit like crazy success, which is a really scary moment that not a lot of people talk about. Like, okay, I started going really crazy on my content, and then someone was trying to post my address.
Wow.
Which is terrifying.
How did they learn?
People on the internet, there are some really scary people on the internet. And so
they will stalk you.
There's a certain, I've been stalked. Yes. I've been stalked on social media.
That sucks.
And there's a certain point where, if you get into a certain level of success, it's, you have the influencers, you have the celebrities, you have the athletes. Everyone's kind of in the same boat of, if you get to a certain level of success, you might have to start being careful of, how many people know where you live, or, do you trust the people around you? Mm-hmm. So there is a certain level of success where it requires a pivot, and that pivot can be scary. I was just chatting with someone, and they're about to be really famous. And the thing is that they were talking about how, their parents are going to switch neighborhoods. They need a gate now, because if you live in a public neighborhood and you have stalkers, it could be a little bit unsettling. Yeah. And so definitely there's kind of a lifestyle switch that could happen where it's like, okay, yeah, like maybe you could afford a really nice house in a specific neighborhood, but if your safety's in jeopardy because you're in the limelight, you might want to switch neighborhoods. Now, I do know a different celebrity who's huge. She's so famous. She's amazing. I can't tell you who it is though, because I don't want to out her, but her mother, lives on a really busy street. And she's never had an issue with it because the neighborhood is really safe and they, have been very careful. But there is definitely a side of things where it can get a little bit scary. I just saw on the show, I think it's called Hacks, the show Hacks. Mm-hmm. They were talking about how, the star Deborah, she had 12 stalkers that they knew about. And it's like, just being stalked by one person is kind of scary, but then having 12, like that's the reality of being a celebrity. That's the reality of being a basketball player. That's the reality of being a model, potentially. I have so many friends through modeling who have really terrifying stalking experiences, where their life was threatened because they're modeling. And so you have to be very careful as well once you reach a certain level. So, because I've had over 1 billion views on TikTok, and once I hit around 1 billion views, it was like, we know where you live. And I'm like, whoa, this is scary. Holy moly. Now I have to approach life a little bit differently because, there are people out there that want to hurt you.
Yeah. And also you're a girl. I mean, so
yeah,
that's
it's true. I'm a woman. But now my boyfriend is a former Marine. So
yeah, that helps.
I have a bodyguard.
Yeah, that helps.
And I don't mind being famous now. He can protect me.
Yeah, that helps. Very cool. Yeah, it's an interesting side when you get there. So I guess it might be like a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a good problem.
Yeah, if you know how to handle this, of course.
Yeah, but there's an adjustment period. There was an interview with Billie Eilish where she was talking about this, and she didn't have the budget to protect herself and to protect her family when she first got famous, but she was having a significant amount of stalkers that were showing up, and it was really causing a problem where she's reached a certain level of fame, but she could not afford the security around it. And so there's like a certain point where it's exciting to have these amazing opportunities and to have so many people watching you, but there's also like a dark side where you have to pivot, you have to adjust, you have to make sure that you're protecting yourself.
So yeah, I guess at this point it makes sense to like create this kind of private bubble and make sure that all your connections, they you curate them and you become very selective about who you trust with your personal information.
Yeah, and that's why celebrities
change numbers. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, that's why celebrities are so private. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard because, it's if you have so many people that are watching you, it can be a daunting feeling too. Like, you know, you never know who has good intentions and who doesn't. So it's definitely something that's interesting that I'm learning, you know, like there was one time that I was in Vegas and there was a girl who was a really big influencer and she had a security dog with her in the casino. She always had her big, you know, I believe the dog was a German Shepherd and it had the little security dog, little vest on and stuff. And so she brings her security dog everywhere she goes because she wants to be an independent woman. But at the same time, she has millions and millions and millions of followers. And so she has to, you know, have the security dog with her unless she's with her friends.
Your boyfriend does this for you better than...
Yeah. I mean, it helps to have someone who's worked in private security as your boyfriend.
Yeah, that helps. Cool.
A little bit.
2 types of reels overall. So there are different topics you talk about, but also there is one type where it's you just being you, kind of like, you know, high energy, you know, just out there like you've been for past 1 hour, 9 minutes. And then the other type is when it's a voiceover. So it's either a popular song or somebody just talking over, and then you're kind of like lip syncing to this. Mm-hmm. So which type performs better and why? Why do you think so?
I would say that the kind of content that does the best for me is the kind of content when I'm looking into the camera and I'm talking directly into the camera. And there was a study that I read in college where they were saying that people actually can't tell the difference between talking in person and when, like, let me explain this right. Essentially, the human brain has an issue dictating between when you're seeing someone talking directly into the camera and they're giving eye contact versus when you're in person and you're talking to someone. So you might start to develop this feeling like you know this person because you always see a specific influencer looking into the camera, talking. And so it feels like you know them. And the reason that you feel like you know them is because there is this study where the human brain actually has an issue dictating between have we spoken in person or did I just see you online? I had a funny phenomenon with this where there was a girl that I was at a casting at. I had a funny phenomenon with this where there was a girl at my casting and I saw her and I looked at her and I was like, oh my gosh, I know you. And I started chatting with her and I actually didn't know her. She was from America's Next Top Model and my brain didn't register the fact that I had thought that we had met, but no, it was because I had seen her on television so much. I just didn't remember exactly what show or whatever. So my brain kind of tricked me into thinking, I know this person, but I don't know from where. And the reality is I didn't know her. It was just from watching her on America's Next Top Model.
I can confirm this. I'm hearing this. Well, I'm not on this level.
Not yet, but there's a reason I'm on this podcast. Eugene is awesome, you guys.
Well, it's because I have 2 more followers on YouTube than you.
Comment down below your favorite Eugene moments or your favorite Eugene characteristic or trait.
Yeah, also that's an example that before you go on a podcast, do your research and at least check followers. Make sure that they are real. Not,
yes.
Anyway, so my point is that I've heard from more successful social media people that they get this attitude from their audience that who believe that they are friends. And in reality, I'm just a guy talking to the camera, and all those people are messaging me thinking that I'm their friend. And this is kind of, it doesn't make sense because we never met in person, but all those people kind of believe, they kind of trust you.
Yeah.
Through this, through this effect that you just described in the study where I think the eye contact, no matter if it's digital or if it's in person, it still works.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the thing. There have been girls that I've met in person where they followed me on TikTok for years.
Yeah.
And even sometimes they're fellow influencers. We followed each other for years. And they're like, the second that we see each other, it's like, oh my gosh, wait. Oh my gosh, hi. And we're just like hugging. And it's like, I love you. Wait, I love your content. Wait, no, I love you. And it's like this moment where you realize you feel already bonded because you follow each other. You feel like you know each other even though you don't. And so it's this really interesting social almost experiment, right? Where, you follow the people that you vibe with. And so there's a lot of really great friendships that can come from that. I know a lot of celebrities that are good friends with some of their fans because they're like, this is the most supportive person and they really understand me. And we just vibe, we have a similar vibe.
Yeah, I had another TikTok star in the very same studio. He does those sketches where it's him talking to his quote unquote girlfriend, but girlfriend is also him with a TikTok voiceover.
I love those videos. I love that kind of video. They're so funny. They're so good.
His way of building audience, and he talks about them as his extended family. Like he checks up on those people, kind of shows that, hey, listen, if anybody needs any kind of support. And what's most amazing is that he actually stands for his words. So like now when there are all those kind of social movements based on the political events, he's actually there walking the streets with those people, trying to like show them support.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Yeah. That's amazing. That's so sweet.
Yeah. So it's amazing.
It's important. The connection between the fan and your, the audience and then the person who's the influencer or the celebrity, it's really important. There was one person who I met who was a really famous celebrity, and they had their mother organizing all of the fans in like a WhatsApp. And it's because, who else are you going to have do it? So there's the mom was making sure that all of the fans were able to have an echo chamber where they were able to talk, as the super fans, like not just the regular fans that sometimes, listen to someone's music or whatever. It's like the people who are consistently showing up are all in a group chat and they have a relationship with the star and the mother.
Yeah. And when you get to this point, well, I don't like to use the term cult because it has a lot of negative connotation. But when the following becomes so strong behind you, then the strength has a direction and momentum to the point that they don't really need you to lead them anymore, and they can just get together and continue moving.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think the future of social media content is that we might have social media personas who are fully like AI generated. But then the people get attached to them so much that you can just take the CI person away because they never existed, but the movement stays.
Sounds like a sci-fi movie.
Yeah. I mean, but with AI, you never know. It's like we live in this kind of future.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I love it. Do you use like any of like modern technologies in your content, or is it more like old school?
I love AI. Honestly, though, I don't use AI as much as I should. I should utilize AI way more. I have like a special way that I organize my content in my brain. And like I said, one of the biggest traits that my family and friends have said to me is that I have like an eye for trends. So there have been times where, I've started fashion trends because I felt like, I feel like this is going to be the next thing that happens based off of everything else that I've seen. And so definitely my trend analysis skill that I've developed over the years, that's been a big part of why I've done well on social media, is because, like I would start a trend on social media because I felt like we're moving in this direction. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
We're moving in this direction. I think this is what's going to happen next. But at the same time, though, it's important to be up to date. It's important to be as cutting edge with your content as humanly possible. So if you have characteristics or you have, like different things that you do, different processes and things that you're doing yourself, that's great. But if you utilize things like AI or you utilize these modern technologies that are available to us, it could really catapult your content.
Yeah. So the voiceovers, it's very easy, very, very easy example. The voiceovers is something that clearly, requires the involvement of AI, but makes things so much more fun.
Yeah.
It can change the way you look. And you also mentioned this, based on which platform you post, if you use the native platform features, so like, for example, use a filter, which adds a bit of like freckles to your face, right? So
no. These are all me. But yes, I know what you're saying though.
Yeah, there's something on TikTok.
Yeah, there are so many fun filters. Yes.
Yeah. So if you use those filters, the very same video can go much better compared to if you didn't use this filter.
Yeah.
And what I also learned is that if you just copy paste videos between different platforms, it probably doesn't feel like it belongs there as much. But if you tailor the video specifically to like, hey, like my TikTok following, if you just refer to them directly and purposefully in the very beginning of the video, that hits much harder, because it looks like you're genuine and you don't just copy paste between different platforms. That's something I need to do for myself, so I go.
Yeah, I feel like it's a personal decision, because I have seen people talk about the benefits of both. I've seen people talk about the benefits of posting specific content for specific platforms, right? Where it's tailored for the platform, and that does well. I also have friends who are influencers where they just copy paste from every single platform, the same video, and it's a time-saving option, but it could go viral on all three platforms too. So it's really a personal decision and really what works the best for you. I find that definitely, I sometimes try to post the same video on different platforms, and I kind of beta test how it's doing. And if it's not doing as well, then I'm like, okay, I'll move it. But then other times I'll post the same one, and then it's like, oh, it actually did better on the second platform that I posted it to.
Sure.
So it really depends on experimenting with it. Just putting yourself out there is half of the battle. Being willing to experiment.
Yeah, and I think that's another possible like niche. So after you make all the money with the food, another one I can talk about is how to like A/B test, different types of content, so you can make sure that you're going to get the most engagement you can possibly get with this.
Can you guys tell that I'm actually secretly a nerd? Can you tell?
I don't really have expectations about you, because it's the second time I see you in my life. But I also know that getting to where you are and being who you are requires unusual mindset.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's why I'm like, well, yeah, you have maybe a bit unusual way of delivery, and sometimes you make faces which are maybe sometimes a bit too much, or sometimes maybe don't fit the conversation. But at the same time, I don't think it's wrong or right. It's what makes you unique.
Yeah.
And what makes you obviously all those brands willing to work with you.
Thank you.
So it's
yeah. Well, it's funny because I recently was talking about this, and I totally blew all my friends' minds. They didn't realize when I was in school, I was like on the robotics team, and we won the entire country. Like with the robot that we built. And so I have a coding background. I know 6 different code languages. And so before modeling, I was like kind of a super nerd. And so definitely I utilize a lot of my super nerd characteristics when it comes to social media, because it's a technology at the end of the day, right? So if you think about it, like you were mentioning earlier, social media is a business. So if you understand the way that the business of technology works, then you can do really well on it, and you can utilize all of its features. So when you use the features, right? Let's say a social media debuts a new feature. Imagine you're the person who works for the company. We put this new feature. What are you going to do? You're going to make it do well, right? Because you just invented it. You just came up with it. You just put it out in the code. You did a whole new update about it. And so if you're the social media creator, it's absolutely in your interest to make sure that you utilize that specific technology that they just came out with, because that's the way that the business works. That's the way the technology works. And so making sure that you're on the cutting edge, it might feel a little bit scary to be the first person to utilize a specific technology. But at the same time, like, you're always going to do better because you're helping the platform establish a new update.
One of the strongest examples of this approach was when TikTok was taken over, and Instagram just came up with their like Reels, which was a copy of TikTok videos. And people who jumped on this bandwagon of like making Reels on Instagram, they were able to progress so much because Instagram was pushing those Reels so hard, trying to compete with TikTok, and pretty much everybody won from this conversation, from this approach. And in reality, every major platform is trying to invent new things. Is trying to test. Is trying to copy each other and see how can they retain this market share, and it only benefits creators like you, and to some extent like me, of using those new technologies. And like say, I think YouTube now allows you to, it allows you to A/B test the thumbnails.
No way.
So when you upload a video, you can say, hey, I have 2 thumbnails. I want to A/B test them, and then you're going to keep the one which performs better. You just give it 2 thumbnails, and it does all the work for you.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
This is maybe a month old.
It's amazing. It makes my inner nerd very happy.
Yeah. So it's a very good example. You do see yourself being in the fashion modeling career until your maybe next milestone in your life, which I don't know, maybe family, maybe you want to kind of retire. It's modeling careers, unfortunately, is somewhat shorter than we see in other industries.
Yeah, so, I've been finding a natural segue into acting, especially because I grew up a theater nerd. I did theater my entire life, and then when I actually got signed with the modeling agency, my goal was to become an actress because they were also an acting agency. And I just had the most potential at the time as an international model. And so I didn't have the time to be doing both. But now definitely I've learned how to delegate my time so that I have time for acting. And I also have time for modeling as well. So that's the direction that I would like to move in. And I always try to stay one step ahead. I always want to think about what's next. What's next for me, what's interesting me, what are people interested in hearing from me? Because the truth is that, I started talking about the food that I eat. I never really thought that it was that unique, but now it's everything that all of my friends and family want to talk to me about, because the thing is that I do have a unique diet and I am really passionate about food. And when I lived in the models apartment, I would make all these recipes, and all of my roommates, all the other models, would steal all my food, and they were like, you should become a chef. The way that you cook and the way that you do these healthy recipes is crazy. It's amazing. So, definitely the food space is something that I'm super passionate about, and I love, because you can become a really healthy person. You can improve your quality of life through the kinds of food that you're eating. And so it's something that we should all care about. It's something that we should all be passionate about, because you could be happier. You could feel lighter. Think about when you don't have breakfast, or, you don't eat lunch, you feel not as good, right?
Breakfast, there's a movement about skipping breakfast, or they position themselves as intermittent fasting.
Yeah, intermittent fasting. That does work. I know a lot of celebrities who do intermittent fasting, and does work. But I mean, let's say you don't eat anything the entire day on accident. We've all had one day where you're working like crazy and you don't eat at all. But then you don't feel good because you're not fueled. You know what I'm saying? If you don't eat from the morning until dinner time, you're going to feel collapse. You have a headache.
You can collapse if your sugar is way too low. Your just organs start to shut down.
Yeah.
The brain suffers.
Yeah. So it's like if you're fueling your body with nutrients, you're fueling your body with, like you were mentioning earlier, animals that had a healthy life, and then you're cooking and eating it, you can feel better. You can have a really high quality of life if you're eating foods that are very nutrient. But if you're not, it's a lot harder to, they're starting to find that these foods that people are eating that are not good for you, there could be some really adverse effects. It's pretty scary.
There are. And a lot of that talks back to your constant low level of inflammation that goes in our bodies. It's coming from food. It's coming from exposure to a lot of stuff on a regular basis. Say, as I mentioned, mercury poisoning would be an example.
Yeah.
Or now we don't have any lead, but we used to have lead-based paint in the housing, and or asbestos. Some even low levels of asbestos also are toxic, and so on. So all those things, your body reacts to them and try to fight them, and this causes inflammation.
Yeah.
And inflammation is linked to a lot of chronic diseases.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. Yeah. So the anti-inflammatory diet, like you're saying. If inflammation is linked with so many chronic diseases, like you were mentioning earlier, then the anti-inflammatory diet is really helpful.
Yeah. So the book here I would recommend. I just finished it 2 weeks ago. Omnivore's Dilemma, Michael Pollan, and he talks about corn. There's the history of corn and how corn came from maize, and how it's actually a very different kind of a plant now, and how the manufacturing of corn is more expensive than what farmers are selling this corn for. But then there are subsidies from the government, and how corn is pretty much everywhere, and Western civilization is heavily on corn. Even if you don't believe that there is corn in your food, there is corn there, like xanthan gum.
That's crazy.
There's the thickener component to make all the kind of powders, a bit more flowy. That's based on corn. It's a corn derivative. Corn is everywhere.
Wow.
And it's a source of chronic inflammation.
Wow.
You also have e-commerce stores. You have an Amazon store, you have LTK, and you also have a TikTok shop. So do you love this idea and this ability to sell products that you can recommend? So kind of you use your audience and sell to them. And can you compare those three?
Yeah. So I love it personally because before TikTok, when TikTok didn't used to have TikTok shop, I used to do these videos where I would show what I used in a day, and it would get millions of views. And then I would go to my local CVS pharmacy to get the skincare product that I put in this video that had I've had some of them where it's gotten 10 million views as 3 million likes. So I go and then it's sold out. And it's it wasn't sold out last week. There was 10 products. I figured it would not be an issue. Or I checked last month and there was a bunch of products. Now it's completely sold out. That could be, just what happened, but it could also be, could it be more than a coincidence? You know what I'm saying? Where now creators have the ability to be hey, if you want to support me, if you want to buy this product, you might as well get a cut because you're already promoting it, right? So it's a lot better that they have the ability to do that now, because it used to be that I was just a good example of this is when I lived in New York years before, TikTok was Musical.ly at the time.
And
I was living in New York, and when I was modeling, all of these women were wearing these gold and white Van Cleef and Arpels necklaces. And so I decided, I was well, you know what? That thing is so cute. I see all of the rich women wearing it when I'm going to my modeling jobs, for all these high-end clients. But it was kind of older women that were wearing it at the time. It wasn't trendy at all. And so then during the pandemic, I decided, I was I had my necklace. And so I thought, I was well, might as well just stay cozy, because everyone was wearing sweats and, head to toe sweats. I wanted to do the same thing as them. Sometimes you want to be cozy when you're making your content and you're doing your editing. And so I would wear a sweatshirt or something, and my necklace. And then all of a sudden, after getting all these millions of views, the sweatshirt color that I would always wear in one of my videos, they put it out at Brandy Melville, the exact color of that sweatshirt, after I had gotten, so many millions of, I was getting there were points where I used to average 25 million views a week. And so 30 million views a week, it was high. And so that sweatshirt was carried at Brandy Melville, and then all these girls started wearing, because I would wear a lot of tennis outfits. I wear a tennis skirt and a sweatshirt, and then my little Van Cleef necklace that I loved because I thought it was a cool way to dress up this casual outfit. And then all of a sudden, all of these influencer girls started doing it, and I was oh, that's so cool. And then, obviously the brands catch on, and they're wait, there's a lot of young girls wearing Van Cleef, and it's a traditionally, at the time, it was an older demographic that was wearing it typically. And then all of a sudden, all these young girls are wearing it because all the young influencers are wearing that outfit, right?
Yeah.
And so Van Cleef and Arpels jumped on they jumped on that trend, and then they had this whole new market that started. So it's if I had been able to have a cut of every single necklace from all the videos that I had posted, I mean, I'd be a very rich girl.
Yeah. I think that's what shops are for.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
They give you commission. At some point, you want to get into making your own products, basically.
Yeah.
either from scratch or finding the factories, manufacturers of those products. And then in this case, you don't need any big brands at all. You can become your own brand, and you're going to get as much cut as you can do.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think this example you just described is not just you kind of predicted the trend, but you set the trend.
Yeah.
And then all the other influencers kind of started to copy you. How did you feel when other people copied you first?
I mean, I love it. I love it when people copy me because it makes me feel like my opinion matters and that people think I'm cool. So I love it. But definitely, I didn't realize how much impact I could have as an influencer on fashion. And, no, it's also one of those things where it's hard to track, right? Because a movement can start with one person, but it turns into multiple people, essentially, And so maybe the fact that I was friends with so many influencers, they liked what I was wearing. And so then they wanted to wear what I was wearing. And so then it turned into a movement of influencers all doing the same thing, which can change fashion, essentially. So I didn't understand until recently. I actually did a fashion show in New York last September New York Fashion Week. And I had a video during the summer that was on Reels, and that video had over 7 million views. And so after that video went viral, I was wearing, in that video that went viral, I was wearing a coat that was one of my family members who has passed. Well, in that video, I was basically wearing a coat that was like one of my family members who was a model back in the day. And she was a big model. And so this coat is like a fox fur coat. It's the nicest coat in my closet. It might be the nicest thing in my closet, okay? And so I was wearing it, and I found these fun vintage glasses from the vintage store for, $40. And I showed the glasses and the coat, and I kind of did a little something in the video, a little pose, and talked a little bit, about the glasses. In the title, I put like text. And so then that video, I had no idea what was going to happen. I go to New York Fashion Week, and I'm about to walk in a fashion show, and they're like, wait, do you want to walk for another designer? And I'm like, sure, absolutely. And so then I meet the designer, I meet the team, and then I'm chatting with them, and they're like, wait, this entire collection was inspired by this amazing video that I saw of a girl who was wearing, a fox fur coat and these really cool glasses. That's the inspiration for this New York Fashion Week collection. And I'm like, that was me. And so then the designer was like, whoa, wait a minute, that was you. And so then we pulled up the video, and she was like, my entire collection it was inspired by your video that you made that hit millions of people. And so it was one of those things where you're like, holy moly, I had no idea how much of an impact that I could have on fashion. Like you never know when you post one video, how far it's going to go, who it's going to reach, or what impact on society it's going to have. And so it's like a very inspirational thing. It's like, you really never know unless you try.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful example. I love it. And I think it's also a testament to just posting more and trying new things, and not being like shy about not thinking that the worst case scenario is that nobody cares, right? Nobody watches this video, but you're not going to embarrass yourself by doing this. I love it. Cool. When you make content with products, do you lean more towards cosmetics because you like to change looks? And like your hair and your skin allows you to maybe just change shapes and change the look so much.
Yeah.
Or do you have like any favorite products you like to talk about?
Yeah, I love cosmetics.
Yeah.
It's funny because when we were on set, I think I said at one point to all you guys, I was like, this is me before, you're going to see me after, and it's going to be a whole new person. And it's true that with makeup, you can look totally different. You can transform. As somebody who loves theater, I love to transform, and so it's really fun to showcase different cosmetics. And also, too, it's been really amazing as a woman to understand the behind the scenes of cosmetics, because there's so many women who are, in charge. There's so many women on the teams. I've had photo shoots where it's mostly women because I'm shooting for a cosmetics line.
Beauty teams are primarily makeup artists and hairstylists. They are women.
Yeah, there's a lot of women on set. And it's this moment where you realize like, wow, this is really empowering. Like in, working in makeup and cosmetics, there's a lot of women that are at the top, and so, and hair, it's a huge cash cow. It's like one of the most booming businesses. It completely, it doesn't even matter what's going on in the economy. Makeup always does well. Think about like how few businesses, how you're like guaranteed profits. So it's like a female kind of run business that always does well. It's like working on those sets. It's so inspirational for, if you're a woman who wants to start a business, if you're a woman who's passionate about something, like you can see like the C-suite of women who are in this makeup company. And, it's, yes, there are guys too. And we love the guys who love makeup. Actually, there's a lot of guys that are wearing makeup now too. Tom Ford has his makeup line for men.
Overall, I think guys should be a bit more comfortable using cosmetics. Well, maybe not to the same extent as, women would be using. But there is nothing wrong with like hair, products or like moisturizers for your skin.
Yeah.
Or like tonal, like foundations and whatnot. Because you know what? All your crushes in your favorite movies, they are in the makeup.
Yeah. All the guys are wearing makeup. All the male models, all the famous actors, they're all wearing makeup. I remember, the thing is that where someone lives sometimes dictates what feels maybe natural, right? Because your environment, it has a big effect on you. And when I was living in New York City, I was in this friend group that was ridiculous. It was like we had a royal, we had a girl who's a fashion editor, we had a guy who's a famous jeweler, to all the celebrities. We had all of these people that were really interesting, right? And what was funny to me is that a lot of the guys were wearing makeup, but none of us could tell. I couldn't tell as a woman. None of the girls could tell. None of us knew anything until there was one night somebody had a little bit of alcohol and they admitted that they were wearing foundation. And we were like, what? Wait, tell us more. And then they all started sharing that they were actually like, they had gotten their eyebrows done. They were wearing, a lot of the guys were actually at the event, a lot of the guys at the event were actually wearing makeup, but they were wearing, a tinted moisturizer.
Yeah.
Or, they were using, some sort of lip balm or something, it's not sparkly. It's like a mattifying thing, but
like the no makeup kind of look.
They were doing, I would say it was male stealth makeup. It was, I could not tell. None of the girls could tell. And all the guys looked amazing with it on, and they were definitely, it wasn't with me, but it was like with some of the girls that were my friends. They were doing really well with women wearing makeup, and the women had no idea. So definitely, I think that more guys are probably going to benefit from wearing makeup if they're comfortable with it. But it is also really hard to do makeup. So I understand why guys would be hesitant to participate as well.
I think it's also changing.
Yeah, it's changing a lot.
It's like a grooming. Grooming was always like a massive improvement that you can do to yourself and change the way people see you and the way you look. And this now includes makeup, at least sunscreen, and sunscreen can come with blended like into foundation and whatnot. So all those things. Yeah,
there's a lot of amazing options for guys out there, especially too. There are a lot of guys that struggle with acne. Or they struggle with maybe discoloration. There's you could have eczema too. It's not always fair for only the girls to be using the makeup. If you want to cover something up and you're going to feel better, you're going to have a better day. Maybe you're going to be more confident. You're going to talk to more people. I would say it's a net positive. And, I don't think that there might be a slight stigma in the past around it, but I think that women, your girlfriend or the girl that you have a crush on or the women in your life, they're using maybe, I think the average is like 25 products for each woman.
Yeah.
So if they're using 25, they're not going to judge you for using 2, okay?
Yeah.
It's going to be totally fine and you're going to look great. And I promise you it's not going to be weird at all.
Does your boyfriend think about going into like makeup, male makeup niche?
The funny thing is he's just, I hate to say it, but he has perfect skin. He doesn't. He doesn't. He has red
doesn't
light
need-
therapy, which actually does work. He was the one who like brought me like into the red light therapy realm because I went to his apartment. We were first seeing each other, and he had like a red light. He had is it like a bench press? He had different weights in his apartment, and that was like it. Like he had like a bedroom. And then, in the living room, it was like a couch, different various advanced gym equipment because he's a bodybuilder, and then a huge red light that was in the corner. And I'm like, this is giving. Like, what's the name of that influencer who's trying to not Brian Johnson? Like,
Oh, right,
this is
not die. Yeah, don't die.
This is kind of giving a little bit Brian Johnson. It's like you got your gym, you have like your super healthy drinks, you have your super healthy salads and protein, and then you have your red light in the corner. And it's true, like the guys, it really benefits to have it. He has a moisturizer, but yeah, he doesn't use makeup. But I have, in the past, I've known guys in my that I was friends with and stuff, like I mentioned, where they were in the public eye. One of them was, I don't want to out him, but one of them was like, he was a jeweler to, like all the rappers that the songs to. And he would wear makeup every single day and no one had any idea. And so it was really great. It was a really great thing for him. And, he said that he felt better with it. And if he had never said anything, none of us would have ever known.
Awesome. Well, I guess I don't want to say that that's something you have to do, but you can find more guys who would be at advertising cosmetics, and then you can kind of partner up with them.
Yeah. Well, also too, I'll say my boyfriend is a male model, so of course he uses makeup on set. They put makeup on his face, on set. Every single huge male actor has makeup on them when they're on set. So Tom Cruise, who's another huge famous actor, he always has makeup on. None of those guys are going to the red carpets with a bare face.
Of course. Like the story I like to tell here is in 2013, John Travolta was filming a movie in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And John Travolta plays tennis.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to the gym that had a tennis court. So it's like one night, it is 10 p.m. and I'm in the gym. And some suspiciously familiar looking dude comes in, like wearing the hat, and just comes in and like smiles at everybody. And like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then like literally like half a minute after, like everybody's around him. I don't remember the whole conversation, but they were filming a movie, shooting a movie there, and he was coming to the gym numerous times. So we talked about like him. He's passionate into theater and then into movie making. That his mom, his family is like from Germany. That's why he speaks German a bit, and we also speak German. So the thing is that the way he looks as just a usual dude, so he looks very different. That's why it's not so easy to understand who he is until he goes through this whole routine of like transforming him into what you see in the movies. And that's pretty much common for everybody who is like A-list celebrity. And this part is what is not very obvious, because we usually don't see people behind the scenes who are working really hard on the backstage. All the makeup artists, hairstylists, all the designers sometimes come out on the runway, and this is how you can see them. But there's also so much effort happening in the back room where they're trying to fit the dress to you so it looks the best. Also, remove all the wrinkles and everything. So there's so much going on nonstop for like many hours, just for like 15 minutes of the runway.
Yeah.
You see, and we don't see any of this. We only see the end result. So in any kind of performance industry, in movie making as well, makeup is part of the magic, as part of the recipe, together with the diffusion filters, together with post-processing, the light, and so on. So that's why one thing, is to keep in mind that what you see in the screen is not really the real thing. It's not the actual world. But second thing is, if they use it, you should use it.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is that these people, their job is to be on camera. Their
Yeah.
job is to be in front of, millions of people. They have a lot of pressure. And everyone has pressure. Everyone feels the similar kind of pressure where, if you go to the office, you want to look good for your presentation. If you're going to be in front of the girl that you have feelings for, you're going to want to look your best. And so whatever a guy is going to do to like make him feel the most confident and the most comfortable, I think is really great. It's a really great option.
I think you should start the program to help guys feel better about themselves.
Yeah, you guys, that's I could definitely do that. It's definitely, I think that men need to talk more about the way that they're feeling and their struggles and their issues. I actually went to, in New York, there was a male empowerment retreat that I went to with a bunch of industry people that I had met. And it was really interesting because essentially it was very controversial and there was a lot of big celebrities there and a lot of CEOs, a lot of owners of companies. I was invited because I knew some friends that were going. And so we went. They just told me it was a retreat. They didn't tell me what kind of a retreat it was. And so we showed up and they were essentially saying, this is a male empowerment retreat. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a safe space for the guys to express their traumas and what they've been through and talk about their emotions. And so we had all the women like sat in a circle and the guys went through and they shared their stories about their feelings and their emotions. And it was really enlightening. And it felt like there was a lot of personal growth that happened because guys were able to discuss how they were feeling because there's so much societal pressure. In the past, there has been so much societal pressure for men to stifle their emotions. But that can, if you keep your emotions on the inside, it could lead to negative outcomes in your body. Like I'm not a doctor, but, if somebody's upset or they're stressed or they have something that they're holding deep inside, it could end up becoming some sort of autoimmune issue, So I'm really pro men expressing what's going on with them and sharing with their girlfriend or their wife or, the woman in their life their struggles because it's really important for them to be able to express themselves and their emotions too so that they can be the happiest, healthiest human beings.
There is this theory that showing the vulnerability to a person, to an important person, is one of the best ways to build connection.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of the times what happens in chick flicks, like before, something romantic happens, is that the guy will share something that happened in his life or something about him and he opens up and then the woman, feels a connection to him and then, one thing leads to another and then they they start dating, they fall in love. And so there's really positive things that can happen when a guy expresses his emotions or shares a story or opens up, because it shouldn't just be for women. Women, we find that's all we do is we tell each other our stories and we open up,
how you feel,
We're always talking about how we feel.
That's a cool topic. I just don't want to go into like another 40 minutes of conversation.
Yeah, no, I agree.
One caveat I want to mention is that when a guy who you trust, believe, have connection with, becomes vulnerable to you, you feel special because he chose you specifically to share something that maybe is very private to him.
Absolutely.
But if a random guy comes up to you in the street and says, I feel terrible today. Do you want to know how I feel?
Well, there's a natural segue. There's a natural conversation that happens before, but I think that it could be open.
There needs to be context. There could be
context. Yeah, as long as the conversation is flowing and you feel like the moment is right, I think that a lot of women would enjoy if more men told them how they were feeling or what was going on with them, because it also reminds you that everyone's human. No one's perfect, and they're, we can all just help each other by relating to each other and understanding, people seem very different sometimes, but then you talk to each other and then they're more the same than you think.
Sure. I love this topic. Yeah, but I think what you mentioned about this retreat, because there are different programs out there to kind of help guys. And some of them do what you described, which is close to what you would experience at psychotherapy.
Yeah.
Where you have somebody who kind of forces you to open up and talk about your childhood, your emotional pressure, what you go through, and so on. But also there's like on the opposite side, there are programs which are kind of helping guys to toughen up, and they force guys to go through like living in the forest, like for a couple days, hunting animals, eating like animals, figuring out how to cook them, and so on. So that's it becomes a political issue very, very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that there's room for both. Everyone's different. And so there are some people where maybe they need a little bit of toughening up. There are other people where maybe they're too tough and they need to express their emotions more. And so there's spaces for everyone to be able to, improve, because like no one's perfect, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that the best thing is to be focusing on self-improvement. If you're not focusing on self-improvement, there's probably something wrong, because no one's perfect. Right. And so it's definitely amazing that there are these spaces for men. Women, we have a lot of that, spas, even like, you're like, why is she taking so long in the bathroom? It's like, the women's bathroom. If you go into the women's bathroom, like, all the girls are just talking about like sharing each other's stories and like having heart to hearts. So it's definitely important.
That's why there is such a long line to the women's bathroom.
Yeah, it's like, time. Ladies, stop talking.
No, they will never stop talking.
We don't.
Never stop talking.
It is one of those things where you can connect more with a woman if you tell her, what's going on with you, or you share a story. It could be really beneficial. And like you were saying, some of these like really amazing, powerful men that we see in Hollywood, because they studied acting, they're able to really be connected to their trauma, to their emotions, to how they're feeling, which is really important as a human being, And there's a balance to it too. You don't want to be too emotional where it's controlling everything, but you don't want to be not emotional and then, you're like a robot. But there's a balance to everything. And so it's really important to just focus on growth and focus on when the moment feels right. If you feel like sharing something about yourself, it can really help you connect with somebody else, whoever that is, even your guy friends.
That's very true. Very true. Even though guy friends are a bit less interested in the emotional component, how much they are interested in more like bromance and like having just cool things to do together.
Yeah.
They're like action based.
Yeah. Something that I noticed about my boyfriend with his friends, because of him serving overseas, is those guys, they have so much time together. So they're able to actually talk about their emotions and share life stories. Yeah. And their friendships are so much stronger. And, they're really they're really close with their boys, They really would do anything for each other. And it's really inspirational to see, because they're guys where they're, maybe they're tough on the outside because, they're military guys or, they're serving. But at the end of the day, they're able to really connect emotionally, and it makes them stronger together as, friends, and also makes them stronger as men individually, because they know that their trauma or their story is not different than others.
There's emotional exchange for sure, but also like military is a very unique environment in the sense that there's existential pressure there. Because, I mean, especially if you're deployed.
Trauma bond.
Yeah, it's a trauma bond, and like you never know if the guy you are talking to now, if that's the last day you see him alive. You see, or it can be your last day. You see, so that's why you cherish people around you, and you understand that life is not for granted. And there's so much. So that's why when people come back from deployment, from military, they are much happier here, but also they are kind of bored. And that's another, it's another syndrome of, because you're so used to all this constant struggle to survive when there is active military deployment happening. Then when you're coming back to like safe country, there is none of it anymore.
Yeah.
That's why people, sometimes they unfortunately go into like addiction, substances, alcoholism, and so on.
But that's why they have support groups. And then when they have support, they're sharing their emotions, sharing their stories. It can really help. And if someone's struggling with anything. And then also too, like, this reminds me of, it's, because we met because of a photo shoot that we did together where we were in a mansion worth $30 million. It was crazy. And there was a woman there who was, in charge of everything, and she was highly successful. She's
Olivia.
Yeah, we love Olivia so much. Yeah. She's such an inspiration. And it was so much fun. The photo shoot was amazing. And then at the end, we all went to dinner at this beautiful yacht club. Mm-hmm. And I asked Olivia, I was like, you've lived this life so successfully. Like, it was her birthday. And so I asked, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned in your life since you're so successful and you've lived such a beautiful life? And she was saying to live, every day, basically to live life to the fullest every single day. And that's what those guys do, when they serve overseas and they come home, they realize, you never know how long you're going to be here. You never know how, like, the next time is when you're going to see your friend. Because, if you're in combat, it, sometimes really sad, horrible things happen. People do die. And so it's important to live every single day the best that we can, because, that's life. It's you want to enjoy it. You want to enjoy every single day.
I think the quote was that, like, how do you feel about, like, you only live once, and like it's wrong. You're not living once. You're living every day.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. And so the point is that, like, these guys, they do the same thing. They understand that, you only live once, and that every single day you should live to the fullest. And if you feel like sharing a story, you feel like you should connect with your friend, you should really enjoy that time together, because you never know when the next time is that you're going to see your friend, or, life is unpredictable. Something could happen.
Yeah. There's a lot to learn from military.
Yeah.
There are books from, like, exceptional folks, Navy SEALs, Air Force and whatnot, and they talk about lessons and so on, how it translates to life. I can give you a couple of recommendations. Extreme Ownership. This is more for guys. Extreme Ownership. One, I think, by Jocko Willink.
Love Jocko.
Yeah.
I used to take his vitamins.
Oh, yeah.
He has, like, these garlic vitamins that actually do really work if you're sick.
Garlic works, yeah. Garlic and onion, yeah. There's the components in both of them, which are not so much stuff can survive. You can feel that you're probably not feeling comfortable consuming garlic, right? Like, imagine what happens to bacteria. Yeah, so those things work.
But another thing that I do if I'm sick, if I'm like, need to get better and I have a photo shoot at the end of the week and I have to get better, is they have these olives that are garlic stuffed. Mm. If you eat a bunch of those, it's basically the same thing, because you're eating a bunch of garlic, and it's been soaked in olive oil and spices and stuff. So it's kind of broken down a little bit, but it makes it easier to eat a ton of garlic.
Sounds tasty, yeah. I would have it.
It's delicious, and you will not be sick. Like, you'll probably, I'm not a doctor, but like, you'll probably be better. I've had it work really well. It's an amazing thing. It works really well for me.
So the other book is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those two books, extremely useful. There's so much to take from them. Cool. What's next for you? What do you do? You're flying to LA tomorrow, right?
I'm going to one of the Oscars parties.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I'll have a watch party.
I have some friends in high places, so we'll see. It's interesting because definitely, a lot of my family has been involved in LA, and so we have some people that we know, and so it's interesting. But I just love being around all of the amazing, like, acting and the movies and all that stuff. It's like you're saying, these people are icons for a reason. Like, they have such grit, they have such strength. And so it's really inspirational to be able to ask them questions.
Are you, like, attending, like, LA Fashion Week or whatever?
LA Fashion Week is around the corner, so probably gonna walk. I'm really good friends with, like, a lot of the organizers, so they know me, and I've walked for LA Fashion Week for years. I've also done New York Fashion Week for years, so lots of fashion shows coming up. Hopefully more Oscar de la Renta shows. I've walked for them already 3 times, which I can't even believe. So that's insane. So more Oscar shows, and and some acting stuff as well. I'm really leaning into acting. That's my next goal, is to be in some movies and TV shows and all that stuff.
Very cool. I can connect you to some of the former students of my school who moved up.
That would be fun. That would be good.
Yeah, but there's so many other acting schools in LA. Of course, you have to be there if you want to go hard.
If you understand, you study photography, that's something that I'm working on right now, is trying to understand the way that a photo works, because I can become a better model by understanding both. They say that all these CEOs, anyone in the C-suite, they understand the way that various organizations operate at, different levels from different angles. Mm-hmm. So having having a deep level of understanding is a great way to become successful in general.
OpenAI has Sora. Mind-blowing. Try it as soon as you get a chance. You can say, hey, Sora, I need a video of, and then you can just give it the whole script of the movie, and it will make it so realistic. You don't need to shoot anything. You don't need to hire videographers, photographers, actors, none of it. It just generates the video for you.
Yeah.
It's not going to be precise. You still have to do more fine tuning. Hey, I want like this girl to wear like a red hat instead of white. So you have to tell it, and it will regenerate and so on. So until you get the perfect result. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
Same with modeling too.
Sure,
they're having the AI models are a big thing nowadays. It's really interesting because it could change the entire industry, which is why I think it's good to express as a model. It's good to express your emotions, your personality, who you are, because then it makes you, you're not as replaceable by AI. You have a name.
There are 2 laws signed by Newsom last year, and they basically are saying that you cannot create replicas of existing actors and use those replicas. You have to hire the real actors. But it doesn't say, unfortunately, anything about not creating fictional characters. So if you don't really need an actor, you can create whole video of somebody who looks like a human, but not a real human, and will behave in a way you want it to behave. So we basically, we need more regulation in this specific area to make sure that SAG-AFTRA, still has gigs going on, and there's a reason why there are unions for actors. Cool. I wish we had more time. It's getting very late. Okay,
this is so fun, guys.
Yeah. Let's close. What would be your advice to younger models who want to start? So they need to submit to a bunch of different agencies, but how do they take the first step? Because there is, especially if they're 14, they're teenagers, and they're very conscious about the way they look, like the acne and whatnot. You see, and they maybe not feeling themselves and not feeling comfortable in their own bodies. But that's the best time to start, I think, right? Because by the age when you are 16, 18, you have so much experience, and you're going to look better than anybody else who just joining.
Yeah, definitely establishing those relationships and trying to get an agency at 14 or 15 is a really strong idea, because then they get to know you a little bit. And there's also time for you to grow and time for you to change a little bit, so you can understand the people that you're working with and establish good relationships with a handful of clients. There's no hastiness. There's no need to rush, because then by the time that you're 16, at 16, when I was modeling at 16, all of my friends were working jobs at yogurt shops or Starbucks, love Starbucks, but the thing is that everyone was employed working a part-time job. And so definitely 16 is a great age to either start, or you could have the leg up because you already have a good relationship with a handful of clients. They're not going to overwhelm you as long as you tell them, don't overwhelm me, so set boundaries about how much you're willing to work if you're, working as a teenager. And so then you'll be able to be set, by the time that you're 18, you'll have a full-time gig. And so definitely make sure that you're, like we were mentioning earlier, learning by doing or learn by watching. Definitely subscribe to different models where you can learn how to model, or, learn by going to photo shoots and trying, because not every single photo shoot is going to be 100% perfect. And so you're going to want to rack them up. You're going to want to make sure that you get the experience.
Perfect. The only thing I want to add is that don't quit your school yet, because if modeling doesn't pick up, then you can always geek out on AI and building more chatbots.
That brings up my one last thought, which is that so many of the models that I've met have been so much more intelligent than I was ever expecting or anticipating. I always knew that the girls would be smart, but I didn't realize that they would be literal geniuses. There was a girl that I modeled with where she was literally number one in her class in college, and then she won the Olympics, like in her sport. And then she started modeling. So, and so many of my friends, they, got degrees while they were modeling. They just studied online, And so it's definitely one of those things where some of the most impressive models that I've met were highly educated. There are tons of girls that I know here in the Bay Area. They all attended Berkeley. There was like a squadron of like Berkeley grad models where they all were super beautiful and super intelligent. Smart, I'm sure all the guys are like, are they single? Where are they? But, so it's one of those things where definitely the smarter you are, it's just going to benefit you. And I think it's a lie to tell women that they should be, not that smart, because it's just going to set you back. So definitely go to school online.
Yeah, I don't think, it's never a good advice to not be smart.
Well, unfortunately, some people, like, in old world views, sometimes they, girls are told to not be, they want to make you smaller so that you're not threatening, because some guys are emasculated by a smart woman. But honestly, I think that's a lie. I think guys love smart girls.
Yeah, there is nothing better than a girl who you can,
watch a podcast
with.
Watch
or make a podcast with it. You see, and learn from. Because there is so much. Intelligent people, clearly can do much more fun together.
Yeah, exactly. And conversation, it's one of those things where like you don't want to be with the chat GPT girl who can't, she'll be able to have a conversation with you, but she can't necessarily connect with you. So
yeah, I need to ask my chat GPT girlfriend if she approves of this mess.
Chat GPT girlfriend.
You never know. Awesome, love it. Okay, Sarah, how can people find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Sarah with an H, Gullixson, Gullixson. And then my Instagram is Sarah Gullixson. My TikTok is Sarah Gullix, just, Gullix. And yeah.
And you have a YouTube channel, which...
Yes, same Sarah Gullixson. So you can find me just by my name, Sarah Gullixson, on all platforms.
I love it. All right, folks. This was your coach to feel better if you're a guy, or if you're a girl, you're manufacturer of the best olive oil in the makeup removal market.
Yes.
Yeah, Sarah.
Always
We'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.
Hey, cheers, guys.